I felt like it was time that I started to explore the African continent, and if you feel like that too, this is a perfect video for you. I planned and booked my entire solo South Africa trip by myself. I'm going to break down the flights, hotels, everything. And because I want to make this super helpful for you, I'm also going to include 2025 dates for South Africa flights that I found that hopefully you can book and you can plan your trip to South Africa. Hi, my name is Chloé, and Brands of Chloé is all things personal finance, travel, and lifestyle vlogs. If you find travel, booking flights with points and miles, and planning trips interesting, I like to make videos like this, so be sure to hit the subscribe button and join this community. I have a few of these on my channel already, and I have more coming, so I would love for you to subscribe and learn how to book trips like this for yourself. Honestly, if you know me, I love to follow the deal when I'm looking for travel and flights. I knew that I wanted to start traveling to some African countries. One day I was just doing one of my searches and I came across the option for flights to South Africa. So I looked into it and I was like, you know what? Yeah, this is going to be my next destination. From what I initially saw, I didn't think it was going to be any type of issue to travel there solo. I have traveled solo for many years, so I do have experience in that. So I felt like I was going to be fine to solo travel there, and I was. My total trip planning for South Africa was under $800. Of course, I will have that broken down throughout the video and totals at the end as well. I did use a good amount of points to book this trip, but that's what they're for. When I'm researching trips, honestly, I do a lot of research on Google, and then I also look on YouTube. I love to sit down and see what people did, but also read on requirements and points and all that stuff. So I'm searching on YouTube and I'm searching on Google. From the research I did, I knew that I wanted to go to both Johannesburg and Cape Town. Okay, let's get straight into the flights. My trip, I left Saturday, February 3rd. I arrived there Sunday, February the 4th, and I left on Saturday the 10th. And I got back to New York on the 11th. So basically you're losing like a day traveling each way. I went from New York to Johannesburg and I flew with KLM. So KLM is a part of Flying Blue, so it's Air France and KLM. I actually booked my flights through Air France. As you see here, it shows 35,000 points and taxes. So this was the one way. I did have some points left over in my account. I also transferred in points when there was a transfer bonus. So Capital One had a transfer bonus back in July 2023. That's when I transferred in 29,000 points. With the points I had left over in my Flying Blue account, that gave me enough points for the 35,000 one-way flight. So this flight, I'm booking it on Air France, and that's because it was a little bit less in taxes than if I would have booked it on KLM. It was going from JFK with a layover in Amsterdam, and then from Amsterdam to Johannesburg. When I actually posted to my credit card statement, it was $139.64. So just a little bit off, and that's because of the currency exchange. For this one-way flight, I ended up getting 3.1 cents per point, so that was great value. But I did make a mistake here, and I want to talk about that so you don't make the mistake that I did, and you could learn from this. If you're not aware, many airlines have stopover programs. A stopover program is when you're flying with an airline and they go to a destination for a layover. Instead of continuing on to your final destination, you're allowed to stay in that city or country for X amount of days. And then when you're ready to go to your final destination, you have that booked and you can go on. So Amsterdam has been on my list for a while now. You would think with a layover in Amsterdam, I would at least spend like one night in Amsterdam for free, technically flying there for free, because Flying Blue has a stopover program. If you fly with KLM, you could have a stopover in Amsterdam. And if you fly with Air France, you could have a stopover in Paris. I didn't know that Flying Blue had a stopover program before I booked my flight. So these flights were booked August 1st, 2023. Both my going to South Africa and my return flight. Sometime in October 2023 is when I figured out they had the stopover program. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. I'll spend like one night in Amsterdam and then continue on. So I called them up and they're like, oh no, you can't do that because you already booked your flights. And at that point, it was months later, and if I were to cancel and rebook it, the amount of points that same flight cost was already raised like crazy, so I wasn't able to do that. So my lesson here is if you're flying somewhere on a major airline and there's a layover, look to see if that airline has a stopover program. Just to name a few airlines that have stopover programs, we have Flying Blue, which is Air France and KLM, Qatar, Iceland Air, Turkish Airlines, and those are all the ones coming to my head right now. If there's an airline you know that has a stopover program that I didn't name, please drop them down in the comments. Let's help everybody out so that we don't make mistakes like me. But I just wanted to put that out there. Lesson learned, and now I know for the future. Now for my return flight, I was going from Cape Town to New York JFK. So this one I booked through Virgin Atlantic. And this ended up being a Delta flight. The flight was going from Cape Town with a layover in Atlanta, and then from Atlanta to New York. If you recall, a while back, I created a video and I was telling you about the Venture X transfer bonus with Virgin Atlantic, how they had a 30% bonus. I showed you all different options that you could book: Nigeria, Australia, Miami, a few others. One of them was Colombia. I actually wanted to go to Colombia for my birthday last year, and I was pretty determined. So I transferred in the points I needed to book that Colombia flight, but I ended up not booking that Colombia trip. So I had a bunch of points in my Virgin Atlantic account, just kind of sitting there. So I transferred in points with a bonus. I believe that was probably like March or April 2023. And then Bilt had a transfer bonus back in August of 2023, August 1st. And that was a 75% bonus. So I transferred in 14,000 Bilt points into my Virgin Atlantic account, and that gave me enough points to book my return flight. So my return flight was 53,500 points. I ended up only having to use 38,000 points for this return flight, and about 923 Rand. And the taxes, when it posted to my account, ended up being $51.85. So that was great lower taxes for this return flight. Now, Johannesburg and Cape Town are hours and hours and hours apart. So there's several flights a day that you could take between Johannesburg and Cape Town. I booked my flight with Fly Saf Air, and that was from Johannesburg to Cape Town. I booked that flight November 6, 2023, and that cost me $79.93. It was a very quick flight, very easy, so I feel like it's definitely doable to do both in one trip. So if you can, try to do both. If not, pick whichever one seems more interesting to you. That return flight, from me stepping on the plane to me stepping off Cape Town to Atlanta, I believe it was like 17 something hours. It was long. It was so long. All of these flights, I flew economy. Trust me, I would love to have more space, but I also love to travel more. So I'm going to save my points. So I fly economy and, do what you got to do. These bigger planes typically have a good amount of leg space because I'm very tall and I was fine on all of them. So it works out. The cent per point value for my return flight was 1.7. It was below 2, which I try to tell people, say above 2 cents per point. But for me, I was okay with that. This was a really big trip, and if I were to be paying this out of pocket, it would have been a lot of money. So I was okay with my cent per point for this. Both flights combined, I had 2.3 cents per point. Overall, it was above 2, which is fine. Now let's get into accommodations. So I was staying in both Johannesburg and Cape Town. With the travel time, losing a day pretty much each way, I had 3 nights in Johannesburg and 3 nights in Cape Town. I had this trip booked since August 1st, 2023, and I didn't book my hotels until literally 1 month before the trip. And that's because, one, laziness and being a procrastinator, but also I was just having a hard time figuring out where to stay. I spent a lot of time researching and just looking up articles, where to stay in South Africa, where to stay in Johannesburg, where to stay in Cape Town, solo travel friendly, all different things that I was looking up just to try to find the best area to be in for these trips. For Johannesburg, I stayed at the Hyatt House Johannesburg in Rosebank, and to book that, I actually transferred in 15,000 points from Bilt to Hyatt, and I was able to stay completely for free. Each night was 5,000 points, so for 3 nights, 15,000 points, and that's what I was able to book for Johannesburg. So that worked out very nice. For Cape Town, I chose Onomo Hotel Cape Town in the Square. I booked this through Capital One Travel. I was able to use my annual credit for that card, so you get $300 a year to spend on travel through the Capital One travel portal for the Venture X. So that came out to $290.93 for the 3 nights. So I, again, didn't pay anything. So my total for accommodations was $0 for this trip, which is so crazy to think, but definitely grateful. Now let's talk about the fun stuff, which are activities. I booked 6 different activities, excursions, things to do for my entire trip. I had a party thing, 2 city tours, safari, boat ride, and a photo shoot, I booked all of my activities through Viator or Airbnb Experiences. I do have a Viator shop, so if you would like to see all the things I book in all the different countries I've been to for my travels, I have it broken down by the different countries and you can see everything that I booked. So if you want to have the same type of experiences or you want to look into it more, those will be there and I'll have that linked in my description box. So yeah, I use Viator and Airbnb Experiences, two things that I've been using for years. I highly recommend if you're doing travel, especially solo travel. Viator is great because there's so many options I've done where they will literally come, pick you up from your hotel, bring you there, do all the stuff for the whole day, bring you back to your hotel, which is great for me because I don't like driving when I'm on vacation, and also solo travel. Like, it's just easier to be, you know, transported everywhere you need to go and like have somebody like a tour guide there who's going to help you and show you around. So I definitely recommend looking into those. I had great times. You'll see in the vlog of South Africa. I really enjoyed the activities that I booked and I definitely recommend them. In total, I spent $389.79 for all of the activities. The last part of my trip planning was like a miscellaneous fee, and that's because I was looking different places if I was going to need a visa, vaccinations, all different stuff. When I was reading up on one of the websites, it wasn't clear if I was going to need the yellow fever vaccine. So I kept on like looking into it and I realized very last minute that I thought I was going to need it, and you needed to get it a certain amount of days before the trip, and that deadline was coming in like the coming days. So then I was starting to freak out and I was calling different places. I was getting quoted for like $400 something, and I was just like, so finally I was able to get a consultation, and turns out I didn't need the yellow fever vaccine, which is fine, but I paid $72 for that consultation. I don't think it hurts to go just in case, because the safari like park that I was going to, it was in an area that wasn't in a malaria zone. There's another very popular like safari game drive national park that people go to when they go to South Africa, and that one he was showing me was in the malaria zone. So like if I were going to that one, I would have needed to get malaria pills. So it's very good to just, you know, find out, get a consultation, but I didn't need anything, so I paid $72. Literally, like I had to fill out all the paperwork and stuff, and then I walked in and he was like, yeah, you don't need the vaccination. I was just like, y'all couldn't have told me this in the lobby, so I didn't have to come back here and pay you $72, but it's fine. It was good information to know. So that was all the things that I booked for my February 2024 trip to South Africa. In total, my trip planning came to $733.15. I feel like that is really, really great for a solo trip to a destination that is so far and really vast. Like there was just so much to do. Okay, and finally, as promised, let me show you the flights that you could book for 2025 if you're interested in traveling to South Africa. The points is about the same, but the tax is a little bit higher on these. I decided to do the same thing I did. So New York to Johannesburg and then Cape Town to New York. So starting off, I found this on KLM. So as I mentioned before, I booked it on Air France on my way there because the taxes were less on Air France. But I did the comparison and the taxes are the same, so you can just go ahead and book this on KLM. So this one is 38,500 points, but if you have the Capital One Venture X card currently, they have a promotion for 30% for flying blue. You would only need to transfer over 33,000 points, so that's good. And now for the return flight, Cape Town to New York. I wasn't able to find a good deal on Virgin Atlantic. I did find it on Iberia and Qatar. So Qatar, it was 47,500 points. So you can link your British Airways and your Qatar Airways accounts. And right now, American Express has a transfer bonus with British Airways. So that's a 20% bonus. So you could also get this for less than 47,000 points for the return flight. I think Qatar kind of changed their website around for reward flights because I wasn't able to see how much taxes that flight would cost. I also did find it on Iberia. So that was 47,500 points and just under $180 in taxes for that return flight. And American Express has a transfer bonus for Iberia right now as well. So that's 20% too. So that is an option if you would like to go to South Africa in February 2025. My trip was February. I thought it was still a great time. There's still a lot of people around, and honestly, it was still very hot in both of the cities, and you'll probably get some better deals. Like I got lucky with the hotels and good prices there. If you're still here at the end, be sure to subscribe. My South Africa travel vlog will be coming soon. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.